Well, the snow's fallen. It's time to start cooking through the dried mushroom stash. Last year we made dried porcini pasta. This year, the perfect dried porcini ravioli. I'm going to show you how to make a restaurant quality brown butter sauce that's creamy and silky and not broken, although I do like broken ones too. And I'll also show you a couple different sauces that I'm going to cover in another video because this video is getting long. Basically, I had MPR coming to my house to talk about a Russian mushroom exhibit that's going on in Minneapolis, and I thought it would be cool. They were coming over to eat the next week to make some porcini ravioli. And porcini, the local ones, they are so much milder than European porcini. I came up with a great trick when you're making the filling to really get the most flavor out of your dried mushrooms, because let's be honest here. Dried porcini can be a little bit mild if they're not the European ones that are super strong tasting. They can also have kind of a slimy texture. So my trick here, see, I just rehydrated the porcini, and we're going to use a bunch here. This is maximum porcini in the filling. We're going to just soak them for like 15 minutes and then take them out. We're going to save the water for another purpose. We're not even going to use it. And you're going to see why here. So to really get the most flavor out of them, this is the same technique that I use for mushroom duxelle, and you can use mushroom duxelle in this recipe. But I take some shallot, so we're basically making a duxelle, and then we're going to add the soaked porcini. And now we're just going to cook them a little bit in some oil. That was actually goose fat. And then we're going to bake this in the oven. So if we add the liquid, you could add the liquid, but it's going to take a lot longer. And the flavor doesn't get crazy strong from adding it. They got a lot of flavor just on their own, but you got to get the water weight out. And this is really the best way to do it. If you try to do it on the stove, you're going to burn them. So you see, after 30 minutes at 350, we're getting the Maillard reaction, that kind of golden brown caramelization. The water has started to remove. They're getting a little chewy. The flavor is concentrated and rich. It is totally different than if you just take the rehydrated mushrooms and make them into mushroom filling for ravioli. Now for the filling, this is big on the mushrooms and less on the cheese. The good thing about that here, I'm adding pecorino and ricotta cheese. And yes, it's pronounced ricotta. That's how you pronounce it in Italian. Ricotta is how Americans pronounce it. Okay, learn something new every day. The filling is not going to come out because it's so firm. Even if you get a hole in some of the ravioli, they'll probably stick together if you have a really nice firm filling here. So that's a benefit to using, more dried mushrooms and less cheese. Now for the dough, if you've seen my other pastas, I only use whole egg yolks to make pasta dough. And we're just going to add about a quarter cup of water, half a pound of flour, 5 or 6 large egg yolks. And just when the pasta starts to come together, we use the paddle attachment there, not the dough hook. Now we're going to take it out and just knead it for 30 seconds. 30 seconds by hand is all that you need. And I'll give you another trick here. If your dough seems crumbly at all, vacuum seal it, and it's going to equalize the pasta in 10 minutes. So you let the pasta rest after it comes together, but vacuum sealing it is such a good trick. I learned that from my friend Hank Shaw at Hunt Gather Cook. If you follow Hank too, love Hank. I'm actually going to see Gladiator with Hank this Saturday. Okay, we're rolling out the dough here. And one thing, I took a still that I will show you. The key to getting a perfect rectangle that is the width of the pasta roller, and we're going to go down to the lowest setting when I roll them out, is that we're going to fold it in thirds. You're going to see kind of what I mean here. I had to pull a still image because I didn't get a video of it, but roll it down a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 times. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold the pasta over on itself so that we can control the width so that it is the perfect width of the pasta roller. And that is going to be the key to getting the nice, perfect rectangles, which give you the best yield from your filling. Now we have our sheets of dough. You can save the scraps and cook them for lunch or whatever. Feed them to the dog. Take nice, healthy tablespoons of filling. and we're going to put a little bit of water. You don't have to brush it with egg. Just a little bit of water is all you need. And these are I call these like lazy ravioli. You could maybe call them agnolotti because we're folding them over an extra time here. So because the pasta is really thin, that just adds a little more body. It is a good insurance plan for them ripping if any of them stick together. And you can see we're trying to get all of the air pockets out. This is very important because otherwise, if you don't get all the air out, they will float prematurely. Then we're going to flip it over. You can see kind of our hedging our bet against getting torn or explosions. It means they'll take a little bit longer to cook, but it's fresh pasta. It's going to cook fast anyway. Put them on a baking sheet lined with cornmeal or semolina. Do not line the baking sheet with all-purpose flour because it will absorb water and get sticky. Cornmeal and semolina are coarse, so they work really good there, just for storing. You can store the ravioli for about up to 24 hours before you would need to freeze them. Now, we're going to make a simple brown butter sauce here. I have about 2 tablespoons of butter for a portion to serve 2 people. And we're going to cook that until it's nice and light brown. I could take it a little bit darker, didn't really feel like it, but you can swirl the pan off the heat to really get it super, super nutty. The most important thing here is adding that liquid. So I added wine. You don't have to add chicken stock, but sometimes I like a nice splash, or demi-glace, which will even help it get more emulsified. Really good if you have some. And you can see I added some cold butter, and I'm tilting the pan, and I've got the heat turned down to like medium. Actually, I think my butane was running out. And we're just going to whisk the cold butter here, concentrating that liquid, because if the liquid is spread out over the flat pan, it's going to break and it's going to become oily. So a really elegant brown butter sauce should be made from an emulsified sauce, which is basically kind of like a little mini beurre blanc here is what you're making. It's almost like a brown butter beurre blanc. But this makes it so the pasta is not going to taste greasy, because just straight brown butter, it's just oil. And it can be very good, but this is the refined version. Now you're going to cook your ravioli. They should take about 2 to 3 minutes. Like I said, probably a little bit longer than other fresh ravioli you've made. And it's okay, you can finish them in the pan too. Cook them a little bit less as opposed to cooking them a little bit more. Put them right into the pan with the brown butter sauce. Add a couple leaves of spinach. You don't have to add much at all here. I added a spoonful of pasta water, a couple sauteed frozen porcini, just to remind us that there's porcini in the pasta filling. And then we just simmer it until the starch kind of comes off, and it'll make it so it's hard for the sauce to break. It'll kind of help bind it a little bit. Then just put those nice ravioli on a nice big warm plate. And I like to serve, this is probably a portion, this is an entree or, a meal for 2, a light meal for 2. Spoon some of that sauce over. You can see I didn't put Parmesan in the pan. That's because the Parmesan is going to cook and clump in the pan. So you want to add that at the table. Keep your sauce nice and velvety. But there you go. There's the brown butter sauce. In another video, I'm going to cover a few other great simple sauces for ravioli if you make them or if you buy them. That was a butter sauce with pepperoni, that spinach puree with a little mint and sauteed mushrooms, and one of my personal favorites, a nice Italian salsa di noce made with black walnuts. Well, there you go. How to make a killer porcini ravioli. The key is to bake those mushrooms after you've rehydrated them to really get the water out and concentrate that flavor. The full recipe is on my website. There's a link at the top of the video description for that. Thanks for watching.